TV.
Content warning. This program discusses suicidal feelings.
Welcome to Seniors Watch. This program is about elder abuse. I'm Joan Chandler, one of your hosts today.
I'm Carol Merton, a co-host of the program.
Seniors Watch is a production of Sheatre, a community-engaged arts company located here in Grey County, which is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the peoples of the Three Fires, who are the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi nations. We are grateful to the traditional keepers of this land, the Chippewas of Nawash, the Chippewas of Saugeen, who are collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Seniors Watch explores various forms of elder abuse. 10% of seniors experience some form of abuse, according to Justice Canada. That's 4,500 older adults right here in Grey County. That's something I believe we all want to change. In today's program, we'll talk specifically about financial abuse. Financial abuse is unethical, and in many cases, it's illegal.
Financial abuse is the most talked about kind of abuse, isn't it, Carol? Well, many people are very familiar with fraud and scams and the harm of stripping someone of their identity. But today we're going to talk about it from a personal perspective, including talking about the abuse of power of attorney. And it's the kind of thing that many people don't talk about, but a lot of people who are experiencing. So what can we do if someone is experiencing that kind of abuse, or if they're seeing it? What can you do?
And you know, Joan, that's the question, isn't it? And it's a tricky question. In a family, you expect to be able to have trust. And it can feel really tricky when that trust is betrayed.
It certainly can. It can be dreadful. So to help us explore what you can do and what it looks like, we're going to do this theatrically. We're going to meet some characters in a dramatic scene. And then what we're going to do is see their problems and also role play with the audience to see what can be done.
And I have found this interactive approach so helpful in making the situations come alive and actually feel more real. This just-in-time strategy and suggestions that come from the interactive approach make me feel that I can use these tips and tools right away.
Oh, great. That's good. I'm glad they work.
Yeah.
And after we've seen the dramatization, then we're going to talk with experts from the area, people who are working in the field and are resources here right in Grey County.
We are fortunate to have them here. And I'm going to read from a list, so I'm sure that I don't miss anyone. I'd like to welcome Joanne Johnston from Grey Bruce Community Legal Clinic, Ellen Rice, Manager of Meridian Credit Union, Owen Sound, Jackie Ralph, Youth and Adult Awareness and Education Supervisor at the Canadian Mental Health Association, Grey Bruce, Charlotte Bumstead, Coordinator of the Behavioral Supports Team at Bright Shores Health System. You will also see some numbers appearing on your screen as we go through this program. We understand that these stories that you're about to see and the discussion may be triggering. You might have experienced or might be experiencing something similar. There are resources that you can use to help you. To begin with, call 911 if you have an emergency or if someone is in immediate danger. You can also call 211 if you need help in connecting with supports and services available close to home.
And as you'll see in the program, it's also an option to talk to friends and family, neighbors, somebody that you trust.
I'm really excited to see this scene now. So let's move on and see what happens.
In this scene, we're going to watch a couple, Fred and Doris, who aren't actually a couple, they're just really good friends. We're going to watch them. And what I want you to do in the audience is to really listen and pay attention for things that go on in this scene that you think, wow, maybe you shouldn't do that. Or, holy cow, I can't believe you did that. No. There's a better choice. I'm really sure there's a better choice. It's like you're watching a movie and you see things go wrong, but here you get to stop it. We're going to come back to that afterwards so you remember those points that made you feel uncomfortable, that you thought could be done differently, and we'll come back and visit that after we've seen the scene.
So, do you think us singing that song to Estelle made her smile?
Oh, I do. You know, I have to go and talk with her, but Fred, what about you?
What do you mean, what about me?
Well, Fred, your gloominess. I know you have a problem, Fred. Listen, you get these deep depressions. What's happened to you?
Look, you don't need to know what's happened to me. Nothing good will come of it.
Look, you can call me a nosy Parker if you want, Fred. But here's the thing, okay? Listen, 6 years ago, I had a stroke.
Oh.
Then Terry died in a car accident. Well, when I got out of the hospital, I was all alone out there on the farm. It wasn't very nice, but I got through it with the help of some friends. And Fred, you remind me of me back then. I mean, Fred, I can't just sit here and do nothing when I see someone who needs help. Come on, Fred, you can talk to me.
Look, I don't want to talk about it or think about it or anything. Nothing good will come of it.
Listen, Fred, it might help you to feel a little less alone.
Oh, it won't.
Anyway, where's your son, Robbie?
Oh.
I don't see him around anymore, and, well, did something happen to him?
Did something happen to him?
Oh, Fred.
Well, we spoiled him, my wife and I.
Yeah.
Everything he wanted, we got it for him. He wanted a bicycle, so we got him a bicycle.
Well, that's, yeah.
A few years later, he wanted a motorbike, so we got him a motorbike. That wasn't good enough. He wanted a car. Because he wanted a car, we got him a car.
Sure?
Shortly after that, my wife passed away, and it was just he and I in the house.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Fred, but, well, you know, that should have worked out okay.
Oh, yeah, you would think so. One day he comes to me and he says, Dad, you're getting on, you know. Don't you think that my name should be on the deed?
Oh.
You know, just in case something goes wrong with the house and I have to fix it up, there shouldn't be any problem. Well, he wanted his name on the deed, so I went and got his name on the deed.
Yeah.
Okay, dude. Shortly after that, he got married. He married a beautiful woman. Jane was her name. She was lovely. They lived with me for quite a while, and everything was nice. One other day, he comes to me and he says, Dad, don't you think with you getting on like you are, that there should be something done with that attorney thing?
Oh, power of attorney?
Right.
Oh,
power
gosh.
of attorney.
Oh, gosh.
Well, what do? He wanted a power of attorney, so I went to the lawyer and got a power of attorney. I gave him the papers, and that was fine. They moved out shortly after that. I didn't see much of them. He didn't call. Last Christmas, they come around and he says, Dad, we think you need some new floors in this place and some fixing up. we want to show you what you mean to us.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow. So he said he could do it. So I didn't know what to say. So sure enough, he says, look, I've got you on a cruise.
Whoa.
Yeah, you're going to spend several months cruising around the Caribbean and down South America. And when you come back, it will be all fixed up.
Oh, wow.
Well, I thought, hey, isn't that wonderful?
Yes,
Isn't that significant of them? They're going to do this for me. So I went on the cruise. I had a great time.
Good.
Yeah, met a lot of people, had a lot of fun. But when I got back, I got stuck on that damn ship.
You were one of those stranded passengers.
Yes.
Oh.
But finally I got off. Now I went around to the house, went up to the door, took my key out. My key would not fit in the door.
What?
I couldn't get the door open. I thought, well, where's Robbie? Where is everybody? I couldn't get it. Okay, so I thought, I'll go to the lawyer. No, I'll go to the neighbor next door because he should know what's happened. So I went over there and he looks at me and he says, well, I don't know what's going on. I asked him, why couldn't I get in my own house? And he said, you know that girl who lived with you, Jane, she was a nice girl. She lives around the corner now.
What?
My daughter-in-law lives around the corner? Whoa, what's this? So I go around the corner, knock on the door, and Jane comes to the door. She's surprised. I'm surprised. So I say to her, Jane, what's happening? Why can't I get the key to fit the door of my house? And she said, well, don't want to tell you what happened, but I guess I'll have to. He sold.
What?
He sold it.
Oh.
I mean, without even talking to me, without questioning me, he just up and sold my house.
Oh.
But how could he do that? I said to Jane, what's going on? She said, well, he's gone now. He's been gone for quite a while. I haven't seen him for quite a while now.
Oh.
She said, but you should go down and talk to the banker. Okay? He could probably explain to you what's happened. Okay. The banker was a friend of mine, so I went down and I went in and I said, what's going on here? What's happened with my house? He said, well, his name was on the deed.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, so he wanted the money. He wanted to take the money. I didn't want to give it to him, he said, but he had this power of attorney as well. So he had no choice. He had to give it to him. He said he wanted to invest it. And the banker tried to convince him that he should leave something for me. No, he took most of it.
Oh,
okay?
Fred.
Now it's gone.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But no, that's not the end of it. You see, before I went on the cruise, I had given Jane $10,000.
What?
Yeah, to look after me or my funeral or whatever.
Fred.
Yeah, I did. So I went around to her and I said, I'd like my $10,000 back. She looks at me, she stares at me and she says, I don't have it. He threatened me.
Oh,
he came around and threatened me. I said, what do you mean he came around and threatened you? Well, he had that power of attorney.
Oh.
And he said that I should give him that $10,000. So she said she gave it to him. What do I do now? I don't have hardly any money left. I don't have a home. I don't have a house to live in. Okay? What can I do? It's all because of that. I just about had enough. Nobody can seem to find that boy. I can't be bothered with him anymore.
Oh, Fred.
No, what am I supposed to do?
Oh,
So, there you are.
I'm so sorry, Fred. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did you tell anybody about it?
Oh,
Did you
I don't-
get some help? Like,
I don't have
did you
anything.
call, like,
I don't
say,
have
the
anything
police
left.
or
I
anybody?
went to the police, but They couldn't do anything about it.
Oh.
Well, how could I do that to my son?
Oh.
My own son. How could I do that to him?
Oh, Fred, I'm so sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry, Fred. Oh.
I've got nothing left.
Oh, Fred. Fred, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Listen, I know you're going to think this is easy for me to say, Fred, but hey, you got to put all that behind you, Fred. Yeah, listen, Fred, we don't know how much longer we've got. Fred, we have to enjoy every minute. Oh, Fred, look, you've got a roof over your head here, right? Yeah, and you've made new friends. Hey, Fred, tonight's the concert.
Oh, I don't want to have anything to do with that concert. I don't want to have anything to do with anything at all.
Oh, Fred, I'm sorry.
And that is the end of the scene. You can relax. Relax. Good. Did you see anything that kind of bothered you? Oh, look at the faces. Oh my word, yes. People are very bothered. So what we're going to do is just imagine something different. Back in the past, before they got to this point, there was a lot that happened in that scene. So did you feel like there was any part of the story earlier on, before Fred gets into this position? Did you have any idea that maybe the course of his life might have been different if key moments were changed? Yes, I see some people nodding their heads. What is one of the key relationships that Fred has that you think might be changed, that could help out? Who does he have a really close relationship that has a problem right now in his life?
His son.
His son. His son. Was there a point in his relationship with his son? What were they talking about? What were they talking about that Fred was confused about, and that his son was also a bit confused about?
The power of attorney.
The power of attorney?
Yeah. He knew a little bit about it, but wasn't sure the context or anything. Like, there was no clarification on what
Good.
it was.
I'm going to stop you there. And can you come on up, please?
Over here.
Good. And you may relax. So, can we revisit that conversation between Fred and his son and see how that might play out if it wasn't just Fred talking about it, but if the conversation was actually happening?
Okay.
Okay? So let's do that. Why don't you have a seat in the chair?
Who has control over the power of attorney? Does the power of attorney have all the control?
For as long as the document is executed properly, then they would.
But once again, what I'm trying to get at is, can he do something to my assets without telling me, without my permission or
Okay,
whatever?
so he is now this person.
Okay.
So can you, I
I'm
trust
sorry.
you.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay,
So let me, yeah.
if you have a power of attorney, can you then do something without my permission, without asking me, without letting me know?
Look at this pause here. What do you see?
That neither of them understands.
Neither
what's
of them
going
understand.
on.
Okay. So what do you want to do about the fact that neither of you understand what's going on?
Well, we need to get more information. That's all there is to it. Like, if you say you don't understand, I absolutely don't understand either. So where should we go to find out what this power of attorney means? And as well, if your name is on the deed, then does that give you control over the deed?
Yeah, but don't you trust me?
Oh,
Like, I
okay.
That's a quite.
So that's a big question, isn't it? That's a heck of a big
And
question.
that's probably how the conversation
Is that what we were
went
going for?
originally,
Yeah.
that he ended up signing the power of attorney
Uh-huh.
and signing over total control of the house and adding son to the deed because
Wow.
son played a guilt card and said, don't you trust me?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so who are you going to call?
Who are you going to call?
Yeah, who are you going to call?
To what? To find out information?
Yep.
Well, you got one or two choices: a banker or a lawyer.
Okay. So you said that your friend was a banker, yes?
Yes, he is.
So what if you called your banker friend?
What do you? You think?
Yeah.
The two of us. I think we should go to the banker and find
Yeah.
out.
Let's go to the bank and we can ask a few questions. I'm sure they'll know.
Okay, good. Now, they've called on the banker. Do we have anybody here who knows what a banker might have to offer? Oh, okay. All right. Come on up. Thank you. And what's your name?
I'm Ellen.
Ellen. So let's imagine this is a couple of days later or a day later. They've been in touch with you. Where are we? Do you do this on the phone or do they come to your office? What happens?
We typically want to see them in the office so we can have a face-to-face conversation
Okay.
and really get to know Fred and what his desires are and what he's trying to accomplish.
All right, so let's not
So we would
talk about
ask
it
lots of
anymore.
questions.
Let's play it out. So here we are in the bank, and you can see that there is no hierarchy at all here. So we're in the bank, and you've come with questions. Let's find out what happens.
We were discussing power of attorney. We couldn't get the answers to the questions. We didn't know them. So we've come to find out from you. If somebody has a power of attorney, okay, can they then do with the person's possessions without telling them? Can they do things to them with their possessions?
It's all based on how the document is prepared when you're at the lawyer. So we would recommend at this point to have a conversation with your lawyer if you're trying to understand what the power is that you have given to your son through that document. But a power of attorney essentially is you giving the ability for somebody else to act on your behalf. So their intentions should be to protect you and make decisions that you would make, that they would be doing on your behalf. Typically, we see it in a bank situation. If there's a snowstorm and you've got a bill that's due, that we know at the bank that you would typically pay your hydro bill or whatnot, that your son would come in and use the power of attorney to make the payment on your behalf, but they're doing the activities on your behalf.
Do I have to be disabled in order for them to use the power of attorney?
It depends on how it's been written with your lawyer.
You hear that? Mm-hmm. So what do we want to do?
Well,
If I give you a power of attorney,
yeah.
okay, what do you want it to say?
Well, I guess anything that would be helpful for you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you want me to be able to pay the bank some of your bills, or if you want me to be able to withdraw money, like what if you want me to go and buy something?
Good. So it sounds like the banker has given you something to think about. Do
Yeah.
you know what? Do you have all the answers that you want yet?
Okay, I don't want to go into I don't want to refer to the act. So what I'm saying is, can a power of attorney be used if the person isn't around?
Technically, yes.
Okay. Now there's somebody that our banker Ellen here has suggested that maybe you need to talk to as well, and that was a lawyer. So why don't we dismiss our banker? Thank you very much. The banker was really helpful here, right? Mm-hmm. The banker gave yes. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe that there is somebody here in the audience who has that kind of legal expertise. So Angela is now your lawyer, and you've gone from the bank to your lawyer. What is it that you know, how do you feel? What do you need to know? And what do you need to know?
Are you a lawyer for both of us? Is he your client too?
I'm so glad you started with that question, because if you're the one who's coming to me thinking about making a power of attorney document,
Yes.
I'm going to want to meet with you alone. I could also meet with your son with your permission to explain the power of attorney and what powers are listed for your son in that document, but certainly we're going to meet alone before I'll have you sign anything.
Okay, is there anywhere a document that gives, powers of attorney, like that spells them out, that you have to put this in or that in or not that or this? Or...
There are free resources available for people to create their own powers of attorney. One of them is forms that are available through the Office of the Public Guardian and Trustee. That's an Ontario government office that is responsible for making decisions for people who aren't capable to make their own decisions and don't have a power of attorney to make decisions for them. However, a resource that I think is better, if you're going to do this yourself, is a resource called Steps to Justice. It's a website that walks you through all the different considerations in making a power of attorney. It talks about the different choices that you
I'm going to
have.
stop you here. Did you see that look between the father and the son? What happened there? Can you look at her again? Look. What happened? Jackie, what did you see?
They seem to be getting more and more on the same page.
Aha! Yes, they're more and more on the same page. Charlotte, what did you see?
I see that they're pondering that question and saying, okay, what's in my best interest? We need to find out more information.
Aha! So, by going to see the banker and by going to talk to the lawyer, what has happened?
Getting the information.
Well, we're more knowledgeable now.
You're more knowledgeable, yes. Do you think that by going to the banker and to the lawyer, do you think that this step might have averted the son selling the house outright, out from under dad later on? People are nodding their heads. Yeah. You think so too, Joss?
Oh, for sure. My next question was going to be, are there any rules that I need to follow?
Absolutely. The Substitute Decisions Act is a law in Ontario that lists duties and responsibilities for attorneys for property and personal care. One of those duties and responsibilities is that the attorney is supposed to be consulting with the person for whom they're making decisions and considering that person's input to the extent that the person is capable to give input. So just selling your home without getting any input from you when you were still capable to make your own decisions was a breach of the duties of your son as your attorney for property under the Substitute Decisions Act.
But he got away with it though.
Well, part of the reason he got away with it is that you didn't want to report him. You didn't want to take any action. And this is one of the reasons that we have challenges with elder abuse in our society, is that seniors understandably don't want to be taking their family members to court, and they don't want to be reporting them to police. So then these things happen.
Indeed. Now, this Fred, in this conversation with his son and the lawyer, something changed in your relationship. And by the son asking questions, that changed what the outcome could be later on. You feel you now understand your duties a little better?
A little better.
A little better? Mm-hmm. And would you continue that exploration?
Mm-hmm.
So
I put him on the deed too. Does that make a difference?
So by adding your son to the deed, you gave up total control over your property. If you had gone to see a lawyer and talked about making that decision, the lawyer should have given you advice around all the risks you were taking.
And you being the lawyer, you would now give him advice about all of the risks he was taking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that you at least went into that decision knowing what could happen.
All right. I'm going to stop it here.
Okay. No problem.
With this relationship with the lawyer and the kinds of questions that are being asked and answered, is Fred getting more information now than he had before?
I wouldn't have put him on the deed. And
Indeed.
I wouldn't have given him the power of attorney.
Okay, good. So
you
this
see,
has changed.
We virtually didn't have this conversation,
You know.
you know, in reality, because I didn't know all of that stuff.
So it's important to have that conversation with a lawyer when you're setting up these kinds of documents and this kind of legal relationship, right?
It is. I talked about a couple of options earlier to do these documents on your own. However, that's not my recommendation.
Right.
It is better to talk with a lawyer about these documents only because the lawyer will go through all the different options you have for setting up these documents so you can protect yourself.
Good. What we want to do is continue with the forum and go to another scene and
Okay.
see what we can
Thank
do.
you.
But this has really given Fred information that he needs in order to make good decisions.
The
That
future of
were,
my life would not have turned out the way it did.
there you go. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ellen. Thank you very much for telling us these things and revealing that. Thank you, Joss.
And Fred, hey, Fred, tonight's the concert.
Oh, no. I don't want to have anything to do with any concert. I don't want to have anything to do with anything.
Good, and we're stopped here. Imagine that there is a thought bubble over Fred's head, like in the cartoons. And, yeah. So what is Fred thinking right in this moment of time? What is he thinking? What's he feeling?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. What else? How do you think? Hopeless?
Frustrated.
Frustrated. What do you think he might be thinking about? What might he be thinking about doing?
And we're definitely worried about if he's thinking about whether living is worth doing anymore.
Now, we saw Doris talking with Fred and did a wonderful job of getting him to open up and tell his story. And you were really reaching out and being a very, very, very good friend. At this point in time, Fred needed something a little bit more, perhaps. Does anybody have any idea of what might happen next if this conversation continued? Jackie, what would you do if you were in Doris's shoes? Come on up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
3 places.
Yeah.
3 places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we going there?
Fred, can I get you to come back and sit down with me for just one more second again?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what for, but anyway.
When I hear you say when you walk away and you said you don't want to do anything anymore and you don't want to go to the concert,
Right.
Fred, I have to admit that makes me really worried. Because sometimes when people are saying those things, it may be that they have suicide on their mind. So it makes me worry about you, and I just have to ask if that maybe is what's going on.
Do I have to answer that? It's probably true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably. What other choices really have I got? I mean, the wall's there and the rope's up there, and I could do it.
And in those moments, those are really important questions to also ask. It's one thing to have thoughts of suicide because any of us can have thoughts of suicide at any one time. But then it does make me more worried that you've even thought it through about maybe what the plan would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to admit it. But really, I'm at wit's end. As you know, I have nothing and no home. Family's gone. Can't be found. Wanted the police on him, did everything else. What's left?
And boy, so many of us can get to that point for whatever reason where we think, hey, we got nothing left.
That's true. That's true. I do realize that perhaps there is some future, though. There is maybe a reason for keep going on. I mean, I do have a friend, Doris, and she was right. I didn't ignore a roof over my head. I do. and some people who look up to me. So, you know, I've had some good times with the people in this place. Maybe I've just let myself get myself down too far.
And I'm so glad to hear you say that, because isn't it so true? We sometimes, in those moments when we get overwhelmed, we forget those little things that have been keeping us here and have been reassuring to us. So I'm so glad to hear you say that, you know, Doris has been that compassionate friend for you.
So in that moment, I probably overacted. I didn't really listen to her. I just was so upset I didn't listen to her. And I probably should have paid more attention to what she was trying to explain I had.
But isn't that so true how our brain gets sometimes?
Well, you get fixated on something and nothing else matters. Mm-hmm. And I felt I'd lost everything. But in actual fact, I still had a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot. I still had reasons to survive. Mm-hmm. Although at that moment they weren't that prominent, but they're there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
And honestly, that's what life is. Life is those ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, ups and downs. Mm-hmm. All my life's a circle.
That's every
sunrise and sundown.
Sunrise and sundown.
Okay.
Yeah. The sun comes up again the next day, whether we're
and the days go
yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah.
I can't sing, so I'm not gonna sing.
I bet you don't give yourself enough credit. I bet you could sing that song really well.
I bet he could too. I bet he could too. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much. Let's give Jackie a round of applause, but stay here. Stay here, Jackie. Wait a minute, okay? What did Jackie do that was different from what Doris, the original Doris, was doing, saying? What did she say that was really different?
She made sure she asked him about suicide and those thoughts of hopelessness.
Very directly
Direct.
said that, yes. And what did that do for Fred? What did you see?
It let him have an outlet and be able to say, felt validated that, you know, those thoughts are there and that he appreciated that she asked him about that. And
It's a hard thing to say, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And to feel validated. How did you feel when this new person spoke to you so frankly about that?
Well, frankly, by then I was momentized that I was now ready to listen to somebody.
Aha.
I was now ready to listen to somebody and listen to Doris again and take second stock of my life.
Right. So you opened back up again and you invited this person to continue the conversation.
Yes.
Good.
Very much so.
Yes. Would this have averted a disaster for Fred? Yes. People are saying yes. So thank you very, very much, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred.
Not a problem.
I think what we would like to do is let these folks have a discussion based on what we have seen demonstrated here with you today. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Can they have a chat about it?
That's fine with me. Just don't say anything that I would regret. Or that you might regret.
Oh dear. There was an awful lot that was said during that intervention, the last one, and earlier on talking about power of attorney, and there's so many more questions that I'm sure that you all have and that we have here. We're just going to launch into a conversation here with our fabulous group of people who work in the community in this field. They've got a lot of questions, but they also have a lot to share. So let's hear Charlotte.
I think a lot of older adults are reluctant to seek help for low mood. They're worried about that stigma of things, but that depression is a treatable illness, and it can really impact their behavior, their emotion, their cognition, their relationships, and also their physical health. And so it's really important to have, supportive family or colleagues or other supports, and Doris checking in and sharing her story about how she did overcome a dark spot in her life and that it did make a change in her life, and to have that hope. And so asking directly about suicide is really important when they're volunteering some of those thoughts, and to have that courage to do so.
When they're volunteering some of those thoughts, it really takes a lot of acuity, really good listening in order to pick up on how this person is feeling, right? Jackie, do you want to?
Yeah, and I give a lot of credit to Doris. Doris was fearless. And what was interesting is she even said how she learned to do that through her own journey. And it's so true. Our stories are our truth, and they are our power. And it's a comfort level when somebody takes the time to see how we're doing. It's funny how we learn the confidence to be able to do that to somebody else. There's a comedian, and he has a show, and he says, sometimes when we're uncertain, what can happen is, hey, how are you doing? I'm really sad. Okay, well, I'll talk to you later. And because if we don't know, we don't know.
Yeah.
And so to be able to switch that and go, wow, that's a real bummer. Is it okay if we talk about that? And sometimes it's our own journeys that allows us that chance to get back in. Because there's a big difference between empathy versus sympathy. And sympathy is like, whoa, I'm glad it's not me. And I'll catch in with you another day. And empathy is hard because to do that, we have to maybe take ourselves back to a time when we felt that way. But when we've been in that moment, then sometimes we're quicker to catch those moments in each other and lean in versus lean out. But there's so many things that can get in the way of that, our day and how we're feeling and what's on our schedule. But in those moments, giving yourself permission, it's okay to lean in, and it's okay to ask a second question.
Yeah, Fred didn't bite.
But Doris didn't give up.
No,
she
Doris
made him sit back down.
Yes.
She's like, you're coming back here.
Good for Doris.
Yeah.
Good
Fearless.
for Doris. Yeah. Oh, good friends. What a difference it makes, huh? To be listened to, to be talked to as though, you really have these feelings. Is it different for older people when they're depressed?
There is, because sometimes their cognition, so they think they have dementia because I'm just not thinking clearly. I'm not thinking brightly. Oh, I must be getting dementia. And then they get into that negative thoughts. And it's just really hard to have that more positivity because they feel that hopelessness. But, with treatment, and there's a combination of different treatments that are available, and it is quite treatable, and they'll have good outcome. We've seen such wonderful stories and quotes from families to say, wow, my mom has got her life back. It's so nice to see her smiling and enjoying the things that were always important to her. Playing her music again, being at the play and not avoiding all of our friends or the activities.
Wow. What does it take for somebody to come and talk to you folks or to go for treatment?
Yeah, and sometimes it needs that other person to make those phone calls with them. Help them get to that help. Maybe go to the physician's office or primary care, or call that number to say, hey, this is, talk to others that may have had that journey and, help guide them along their way so they know that they're feeling supportive.
So stay with them,
Help
make
them.
the phone call with them.
They might not have the energy otherwise, to
yeah.
call. And it's like, that's just another thing I have to do. And they don't want to do it. So if it's like, I'll call, I'll be there with you. And just being there by their side is really a powerful thing.
And let's do it right now while we're thinking about
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. Good. This particular daughter, son, person really approached things differently too. What was it that was so different about Joanne versus the story that Fred told to the whole world there when he unveiled his truth?
Joanne did actually go with him to the banker and the lawyer and find out some more information about the legal implications of going on the deed and becoming the attorney for property.
So again, it's about supporting each other in finding the way toward the future. That's what I'm hearing. Would you agree? Is that true? Yeah. Now, what do you see in your position you're a real banker? Yeah. So do you have people coming to you with vague questions or real direct things?
All of the above. We see people that come in with very specific questions, like what Joanne was asking, what does this mean? What does this allow me to do? And we try and have very open conversations with the donor and say, this is the power that you have given, or this is the ramifications of some of the choices that you're making and some of the decisions that you're doing. We'll have a very pointed conversation saying, I've never met you before, I don't know what your intentions are. And then I turn back to the donor and say, these are some of the things that they can do if you give them this power.
Right.
So really, really take the onus off of them to figure it out, that we reiterate the same conversations that they'd have when they stop in and see Angela. Like, this is what you set up potentially 10, 20 years ago, that this is still what's happening, and some of the decisions that can be made. And unfortunately, the ramifications of those decisions we've seen often enough that I'm going to make sure you know what this means, so that I don't have to have a tough conversation after the fact saying, okay, this just happened.
You could really, even in the conversation that Fred had with the banker when things were becoming clearer, you could still see his distress, his distrust, his mental health. What's the word?
Well, it's interesting because that you could watch in the conversation, it's not, he didn't want to not trust his son, but you only know what you know till you know it. And it just seemed like there were so many questions that weren't answered. And again, I give the banker credit for being fearless and saying, hey, but these are the things we need to ask, and these are the things we need to know. And you know what? We're going to do it in person so I can see the whites of both eyes.
Absolutely.
And good on them for saying, hey, this is how this conversation needs to go down.
I think it's something that we always kind of hear the words, but not really understanding what they mean, and that they actually hold a lot of legal weight. I find that, like, when we are kind of in this mix of media, you hear a lot of words thrown in, power of attorney, you know, like all those different things. And if you don't really know what that means, then it kind of feels like it's a common knowledge, so you don't seek it out further. Right. I find that's a lot of the work that we do at the legal clinic, is clarifying a lot of those things and misconceptions just from them being out in mainstream and kind of losing some of the legal jargon, or not really having access to understanding that legal jargon and what those different documents can mean.
Right. So, and I see a lot of nodding. So the person has a sense that maybe they should know about this already.
Yes, and there are a lot of misconceptions out there, as Joanne was saying, about powers of attorney and what authority they confer when those documents are signed. I provide public education about powers of attorney, and I find every time I do a session, people are coming up to me and they're saying, oh, I had no idea this is how these documents work. So it is very important before setting up these documents to make sure people understand what they do. You might feel scared off of having a power of attorney from Fred's experience and think, oh, we definitely don't want to do that. We don't want to give someone that authority, but they do serve a purpose. When someone's no longer able to make their own decisions, if there's a power of attorney in place, then someone can jump in with the legal authority to make sure that person's bills are paid, to make sure that their money is protected from fraudsters or bad investments, can make sure that the care that they need is arranged for them if they need healthcare support. So these documents are useful, and the key point is to make sure that you understand how you can build the documents to reduce the risk that they'll be misused.
Right.
And that's why I say it's better not to do them yourself. It's better to go see a lawyer and talk through those options.
And a lot of people as well misinterpret, well, I have a will, so I'm covered. They really think that having a will means, well, somebody's going to take care of all my things. And it's that misinterpretation again.
The
But
same
you're
thing with
still
power of
around.
attorney. I have a power of attorney, but the person has passed away.
Yes.
So your power, like the donor, can no longer give you power if they have passed.
Yes, power of
So we see those often.
Yes, power of attorney ends as soon as someone dies, and that's when the will is the document that determines what happens next. The will is the document in which people indicate what will happen with their possessions after they die, and appoint someone, an executor, to look after their possessions and their funeral arrangements. Power of attorney is a document in which we appoint someone to help us with our decisions while we're still alive. And there's a lot of confusion about the difference between the two.
Well, that's a big difference. While you are alive, when you are no longer alive.
Exactly.
Right. Good. What's the key takeaway from this today? What is it that you think you would like the audience at home watching to really be aware of and to hold in their heart from this?
I know for me, we get worried that we're nosy. Oh, I don't want to be nosy. I don't want to be nosy. But it's okay to be nosy on both ends. Hey, I need to be more nosy about what these papers mean and ask lots of questions and be curious. But at the same time, too, Doris says, it's okay to be nosy. Helpful nosy is quite okay. There's a reason for that. There's a difference in the questions I can ask, but being helpful nosy is definitely something we need to do more of, because as a society we're like, oh, I don't want to get in the way, or I don't want to say something that makes them angry, but at the same time those questions might be life-saving questions, so it's okay to ask them.
Good, good. I think that's a really great note to end on, and it applies too to the malarkey scene that we saw earlier. It is okay to be nosy. It's okay to be a friendly neighbor and a friendly family member, and somebody who is going to ask questions that will help another person. It's okay to take that brave step. Wonderful. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any last words?
I would just say 2 key things to prevent abuse are have friends, know your legal rights, because we see it with Doris. If Fred had talked to Doris before he signed those documents and expressed his doubts, maybe she would have encouraged him to know more about his legal rights. And then we heard him say he wouldn't have made the decisions he did if he had known his legal rights. So have friends, know your legal rights. That is the best formula to prevent yourself from being abused.
And that really sticks with all of the things that we've seen today, with all of the scenes, all the conversation we've had today. Can we say it together? What is it? What are the 2 things we have to do, Angela?
Have friends.
Have friends.
Know your legal rights.
There you have it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Watching this sends very powerful messages. Sometimes talking like this can bring on disturbing, confusing, difficult, or painful thoughts and memories. It's okay. In fact, we encourage you to reach out, turning to someone that you can trust, that you're comfortable talking to, like a good friend, or a family member, or a teacher, or an advisor. That could be a good option. And if somebody also turns to you to listen, please take the time to hear what they have to say. It's okay to listen. As we found today, there are accessible, free community resources available to you. And at the end of the program, you will see a list of phone numbers that you can call.
Remember that number 911, the emergency number? Well, you can call that number if there is immediate danger. And there's a new number, the suicide crisis line, and that's 988, 988. And if for any reason you don't know who to call or you can't remember who to call, you can call 211, just those 3 digits, 211, and somebody there will direct you to a resource that you can get in touch with, somebody who will talk to you about what you want to talk about.
There is no wrong door to go to when you're looking or asking for help. Remember, no wrong door. Reach out. Joan, you mentioned that this story was based on real incidents that you heard about when you were creating a play. Can you tell us where this particular scene came from?
Fred's story is taken from the play You Cannot Throw Your Granny Off a Bus. And that play was created with Ted Kodak, Audrey Otter, David Sarita, and myself. Now, Audrey and Ted, they were like detectives. They went around Grey County and they talked to people about their own real experiences, and they collected the stories and they brought them back, and we animated them and created a play. I can't tell you, Audrey is such a good listener and a great actor. And Ted, he was a real entertainer. He was in music halls. He was a music hall performer, and he was even on, do you remember Pig and Whistle? That show? He was on Pig and Whistle. And he sang, he was wonderful. He was very humorous. And that came into the play, You Cannot Throw Your Granny Off a Bus. It was performed by them and by subsequent casts after Ted passed away all across Ontario. They even performed in England. And the stories, they're really informative. They really teach us things. So we toured until the pandemic came. And then we thought, these stories are too important. So we adapted and we turned them into a podcast. It's like a radio play. It's the same format as what we've been doing here, where you hear the story, it's dramatized, and then we talk to experts and hear what they have to offer us. And you can listen to that podcast. You can access it through our website, sheatre.com, or through any podcast platform.
Thank you, Joan. I also want to mention, though, that there has been another episode of Seniors Watch produced here on Rogers TV Grey County that focuses on the plight of an overwhelmed caregiver and her sister who is living with dementia. Now, Joan, I understand that you're presenting also live in communities. So viewers, you can host an in-person Seniors Watch presentation like this in your own community.
Yeah, we really do go on the road. So if you want to talk about elder abuse, you can invite us to come to you, and we'll bring the dramatization, either as a podcast or live actors, to your own community. And you can talk about the issues and hear about the issues that are affecting people who are close to you.
Sheatre and the programs they provide depend on the generosity of donors. Please consider helping Sheatre to use the power of theatre to reach out and support our community. You can send e-donations to thankyou@sheatre.com. We are very grateful to the sponsors of this segment of Seniors Watch, the Community Foundation Grey Bruce, Ron Todd and Associates of IG Wealth Management, the Ontario Arts Council, Woodley Care Services, and Rogers TV Grey County. I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. I want to say thank you to Sheatre, who believe in the power of theatre and the arts to change lives and contribute to a healthy, compassionate society. Thank you to all of our participants who have given their time and their talent for this important message. Please share this information with your friends, work colleagues, neighbors, and community networks. Ending abuse begins with talking about it, with revealing it, and then we can do something about it. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Oh, you cannot throw your granny off a bus. No, no. Oh, you cannot throw your granny off a bus. No, no. Oh, you cannot throw your granny, 'cause she's your mammy's mammy. You cannot throw your granny off a bus. Oh, you cannot throw your granny off a bus. No, no. Oh, you cannot throw your granny off a bus. No, no. Oh, you cannot throw your granny, 'cause she's your mammy's mammy. You cannot throw your granny off a bus. Oh, you cannot throw your granny off a bus. No, no. Oh, you cannot throw your granny off a bus. No, no. Oh, you you cannot throw your granny, 'cause she's your mammy's mammy. You cannot throw your granny off a bus. Mm-hmm.